Hi, and welcome to Dating Today.
Jesus Christ. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on Dating Today, a conversation about modern dating issues. My name is Brock. I am your host, and I'm joined by Megan, my co-host.
Hello.
And today we are going to be talking about passion versus security.
Add it up.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us on Dating Today. Like I said, we're going to be talking about passion versus security. Now, Megan, as people are dating, such as yourself, maybe your value system changes from what it was maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I think a lot of people experience that as they're going through suitors, as they're going through their dating experiences, as their priorities just kind of shift. Maybe the passion, maybe the chemistry isn't quite as important as what somebody might be bringing to the table that looks like a sustainable characteristic. So, I kind of wanted to ask you, you've been dating for a while. What are you looking at in terms of values? Like, are you still wanting that chemistry, that passion, or have you kind of changed a little bit what it is that you're looking for initially anyway?
Yeah, so it's like exactly where I'm at right now. So I am a far more emotive person. I tend to think through my feelings first and then logic my way through my feelings.
I like that.
Yeah, had I not ever been introduced to hey, Megan, critical thinking is, also good. I probably just would have sat in my emotions a lot. And, so
We've all been guilty.
Yeah. We've all gone through our phases too. I think early 20s is a big phase of let's feel everything we need to feel and tell everyone.
Tell everyone.
I mean, let's
Thank
look
you,
at
Facebook.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's look at our old Facebook or MySpace.
Please don't pull up my
oh my
Facebook
gosh,
memories.
I feel angry right now. I'm so emo today.
Right.
Anyway, yeah.
Cryptic lyrics.
Oh gosh, I have too many of those. I found them from 2008. I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So as I am an emotional person. I tend to process situations through my feelings center first, and then I work my way through my brain. My brother always said, I think one of the wisest things he ever said is follow your heart, but take your head along with you.
Wise man.
So I think that the point that I'm at right now is maybe we societally and culturally, we're looking at what happens when people only focus on honoring their feelings. And feelings and facts are not the same thing, obviously.
Oh no.
And facts don't care about your feelings. And so because of that, we're in this weird kind of culture where we're you either have some people who are just entirely driven by empathy and feelings, or you have the people who are analytical like this. And there's just it's like everything right now. There's just a bigger divide. And so even internally, I'm feeling that divide of I want passion. I want my love story. I want, that the sparks. I want to feel something. I want to feel invigorated by a person. And I think what I'm kind of working on right now is is it possible to grow sparks? Because if you know that you're presented with somebody who has all the same values, and just is a quality individual, and they are emotionally stable and they are financially secure. As a female, that's something that I think it's important to look for, especially if you want to be a stay-at-home mom at any point, or want to have the option for that.
Sure. Well, just if you want a life partner, that is an important thing.
Yeah, I think depending upon your values and how you want to operate. If you're CEO, hungry, you're totally cool being the breadwinner as a female, okay. But I'm not. That's not the kind of drive I have. I'm far more emotional, nurturing. That's my gear is the house.
Got it.
And I know that about myself more than ever now. And so this, when presented with somebody who's check mark, all of the qualities you want in somebody, and on top of that, conversations are incredible, and you connect emotionally and intellectually. It's just so easy. You could spend hours, but there's holdback on you might not be feeling yourself as excited or sparkly, or I don't know if it's just boils down to pheromones and chemistry and stuff. I don't know. But I'm starting to go, like, is it that important to have that other component, or will that build later? Because we did talk about that before, where it's arranged marriages have a higher happiness
Yes.
success rate. Like, not just,
Fulfillment.
success rate. Yeah,
They are
fulfillment.
fulfilled. Yes,
And
yes.
they are largely happier because they both are equally doing their share in like caring for the marriage.
Sure.
So that's kind of, it is the hard part that I think you get into in your middle 30s is like, is that like wishy, swirly, exciting puppy love feeling? Does it need to exist?
Do we need passion? Do we need chemistry? Is chemistry overrated? Is kind of what we're asking. Should we lead with a little bit more of a logical mind? Should we kind of guard our emotional connection just a little bit more?
Yeah.
And allow ourselves a little bit of time to see if they show up consistently. Like you said, are the values the same? Are they, someone that you can trust? Like building these types of things. Is that something? Are you saying that that's something we should be trying to do more than probably what a lot of early daters, especially, let's say like people under the age of 30 who are very in their feelings and are probably dictated quite heavily by them. Are you saying that it would be wise if they're looking for something long-term to de-pedestalize chemistry? Because I think we often do. We often we meet somebody, like we had a podcast just recently that the guest, Lexi, she was saying that, she was not necessarily trying to feel with her now fiance. She actually put that on the back burner.
But she said that she also connected immediately with him. They had this kind of initial fiery sort of roasting at the beginning. So that was chemistry still.
Okay. You're absolutely right. Yeah, so it was. But she wasn't looking for it. She had claimed that she was in her villain era, so she had shut that part off. And then she met the person that she's going to marry. And so maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Not leading with, I need chemistry first. Maybe it shouldn't be that type of idea. Yeah, maybe you can have it, but that shouldn't be like, hey, let's build. That should be the foundation. If I'm not feeling the sparks, if I'm not feeling the chemistry, the immediate attraction, because I have friends, I have clients all over the place that will sabotage or completely throw away a potentially good relationship, a good partner, because they're just not feeling the spark.
See, and I've heard you say that before, and I have also dated somebody because they were treating me well, and I had previously not been treated well. So I fell into the trap of like, well, they treat me really well, so I'm gonna, like, I don't feel much for them, but maybe it'll grow. I've done that. I dated a guy.
And it can.
Yeah, well, so
the arranged marriages.
Right.
Sure.
Well, so I dated this guy who was long distance, and it ended up being that he had split custody of his son. So if we were going to be together, I would need to move to him.
Okay.
So I moved to him.
Okay.
And I had told him prior to me moving out there and like trying to find a place and all that crap, I kind of was like, here's the thing. Like, I have a strong personality, I have a strong backbone, and like respect is earned. And once it is,
correct,
I find my place of like, I know submission is a very
submission.
Yes.
The S word.
Yes. It's a very controversial word, but
yes,
the thing is like I think submission only occurs when there's first somebody worth like giving your trust to, and I don't think submission is about subservience. I think it's about trust. And
it
so
when
I look scripturally at it, right, and you come from that background, when you look at it scripturally, it's never about like, hey, men, rule over your wives and beat the crap out of them, or they're your servants. It was never that. Like
that's been one of the most heated topics I've discussed, and I upset a lot of people with releasing a newsletter talking about the difference in submission and oppression. They are a very different thing. One is done against your will, one is done willingly, because you as a woman feel that the environment that he is helping curate is a safe space, and you have seen him demonstrate leadership qualities consistently.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like, oh, I can trust him to take the lead. I can relax. I
yeah.
can relax that. And maybe it's the word submission should just be relax.
Yeah,
You could just
like
relax.
it's truly, when I read your newsletter, I was like, yes, call the men out. So when I was like, utterly shocked when you told me that you had such backlash on it, because I was like, did they not read it? And you're like, I have no idea, but I got such bad feedback.
Sure.
And I went back and I read it again, Brock, because I just could not believe that any woman could read that and not see that it was a call out for men, not for women.
It was a massive call out for male accountability in
Yeah.
relationships, because I do have men who reach out to me who say, I want to meet a girl that's going to submit. I'm like, hold up, buddy. Hold up. I was like, that is something earned. You don't just find someone who will. Like,
Preach.
you have to be the person who's worthy of that.
Yeah.
You have to, and listen, it's not a one-time show. It is not a grand gesture. It is a responsibility and a duty that you have to maintain consistently. Once you sign up for that, there's no days off.
Yeah.
There is no days off in that relationship where you're able to just be like, oh, I'm gonna kind of like, betray her trust a little bit and still expect that she's gonna submit. No, that is something that if that is, gentlemen, if that's something you want, buckle up, because it is a non-stop investment.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, what happens is what's happening right in the feminist culture, and also in the I just think there's a massive lack of accountability for men right now.
Sure.
But again, I have to give grace where it's that wishy-washy, what are you actually asking men to do kind of thing, right? Because
Sure.
it's fourth wave feminists are like, we don't need you for anything. We need you for nothing. Like, lay on the ground so we can walk over you,
Sure.
right? So you have,
Misandry, basically, just the male hate. That's really what that is.
yeah. So that you have that, or on the other side, you have like, he needs to be paying all my bills, and he needs to pay my first date. He needs to pay for my daycare sitter. Blah blah blah. That is unreal to me. So you have these very two stark contrasts
Sure.
of demands for men, and so they're kind of put in this like. So I think what happens is they take a back seat, and then you're not sure as a female, am I getting somebody who's emotionally unavailable, somebody waiting to be called out to do better? So then that's how that fixer thing can kind of come into play too, because you're like, they're kind of sitting on the back burner. And if you're like, this is what I need from you, and then they start showing up, you're like, score, we're on the same page. We're looking for reciprocity. We're looking for like even running track here.
Sure.
Like, so
You know what's so confusing? I'll say this from the male perspective, is that every woman wants something different. There's like this chart of characteristics and timing in which characteristics need to be displayed, and it's like those old radios that just every little thing could be adjusted, and for each woman, they're all different. So I know I'll make a generality about like, well, women want this, but every woman is different. And you have to take the time to figure out exactly what her recipe for a desirable relationship is. But women also need to do the same thing. They need to see what the recipe is that he wants a relationship to look like.
Right.
And then you guys need to see if you can cook together. Like, that's it. That's
So what blows my mind, and I just listened to this on a podcast today, just listened to this guy talk about how when a guy goes up to approach a girl, one of the things that she wants to know, without like having it be said straightforward, is that she wants to know that he is interested in her for more than just her beauty. And so basically, if a guy can compliment a girl on something that he notices about her,
like
or
her
says,
choice of something.
yeah, or says like, oh, I love spending time with you because you are, because you're so funny, or I love spending time with you because you are really decisive about your food choices.
Sure.
Or, I mean, just random little things, just taking a notice of the fact that the only reason that I did not put you in my line of sight was just simply because you're pretty. Because that's the other thing. When I've heard, and this is a Gen X thing that I've noticed, and maybe this is
Calling out everybody
that's
today.
ageist, whatever. No, but it is a Gen X and Boomer. It is an older generation thing, because I think it's more traditional when they say, men are real simple. Men are real simple. All they want is a beautiful woman who will give them peace and bring them peace to their home. And I'm just like,
You don't agree?
No. I think everybody is an intricately woven human being, a tapestry, if you will. This is my artistic side coming out, my poetry of this.
Okay.
I think every single person is this beautiful tapestry of something, and they want to be wanted for the tiny threads that are woven together in such a way that creates that. They want to be wanted for that, right? Because they know that they're intricate and they know that they're beautiful for being so unique and being so specifically put together in the way that they are, right? Every single person, I think, feels that they want to be known and they want to be valued for that. And therefore, I think, too, when a man is like, oh, I just want peace and I want a beautiful woman, blah, blah, blah.
You don't think that's true, though, that you don't think he wants that? Or you think he wants significantly more?
I don't think that's as simple as that. I think that if he thinks that, then he doesn't know, then he doesn't really know what he wants. And that's a little scary.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I will, but let me say this. For the majority of men who are healed, they do want that. Not only that, but that is a prerequisite to if this person is wifeable.
That's not what I'm saying, though.
Okay.
I'm saying that when men say, oh, men are simple, all they want is this, and they land there and they stop there.
I'll tell you, if a man's in a relationship and he has those two things, if everything else is in the relationship's falling apart, if he has peace with her and she's keeping herself attractive, that will keep that man from leaving the relationship. I promise you. Most of the time, it will.
Then I guess the intricacies lie within what creates peace for you individually.
Well, it needs to be abundantly understood that she's not supposed to bring all the peace to his life, but she is supposed to bring peace in their relationship.
But she can only bring peace if he is stepping up and doing what he is supposed to be doing too.
100%.
The peace is gone.
I agree.
And so that's the thing is like, so what you want as a man is to be motivated, as you would say, be motivated to be the kind of man that would allow a woman to bring you peace.
So it's a circular.
Yeah. So it really all just
like
boils
you want
down
this,
to like,
then you must be this.
Men need to step up because it's all relying on them. They create their own relationships.
Okay, let me ask you this. So I hear this all the time. I have girlfriends who have said this all the time. I've done content on this. Women say that they need a man to put them into their feminine. I need a super masculine man to put me into my feminine.
I don't like the idea of super masculine. And here's why. It's because it gets confused for chauvinistic.
Sure. I think toxic masculinity.
Yes. Yeah. Like I think we both could think of somebody right now.
Sure. Well, so then when they're saying, okay. So when they're saying I need a super masculine man, they just mean a man who is confident, who is consistent, who does what he says and says what he's going to do, and has the quality leadership traits, who takes things like, he takes the point, he takes lead so she can relax. That is what they're saying. I need that in order to be feminine. That's what they're saying, right?
Yeah. I wanted to make sure that I took it all in. I think so.
Do you think that a man who brings all of that wants to have or meet or engage with a woman that is not there first in her feminine? Because she doesn't even want to mess with a guy who's not in his masculine. Like if he was in his feminine and he said, I need a hyper feminine woman to put me in my masculine, everyone would laugh him out of the room.
Because it begins with him. Maybe that's... I think that it begins with him because he gives her the freedom to move into that space. Whereas if he is not that thing, then even if he met her in her most feminine, and he was not in his masculine, that you would have two individuals. He's not going to be perpetuated to make moves.
I know. I get what you're saying.
Because I've seen it, and they're like loser relationships.
Sure. I'm talking about a man who is those things that she says she needs. Do you think he's going to find her attractive if she's not already in her feminine?
I really have to consider this longer than we probably have right now. This
Okay.
is something I really, I'll munch on it.
Well, the reason I ask,
I know
mean,
why.
it's part of the topic of, do you want chemistry and sparks and all that, or do you want security? If you're going to change what you prioritize, should we be changing what we prioritize in terms of the man needing to be this hyper masculine guy? Does that also need to change? What things are we going to take away? Because if we're going to say we're going to back off the chemistry, if she's in her feminine, he's in his masculine in a healthy way, that's going to be a very attractive cocktail. You're going to want to mix with that type of person.
So here's the other thing to that though, is you can be in your masculine in say there's like 15 areas to be like masculine to show that leadership, right?
Yeah.
And you can have 13 of them. But if the two that you're not are of utmost importance to her, then she's going to feel like she has to jump in and take over those spaces, and she's going to show her masculinity in those spaces, and either you have to be okay with it and that's to be a compromise that's made, whereas everything else is like, okay, we can. But I also, here's the other thing, is I also think that so many women have had to be on their own. Okay, when you get into, I just interrupted myself. When you get into your 30s,
Go on.
because there's like so many thoughts that just came.
Right.
When you get into your middle
fine.
30s as a female, say you've been a homeowner and you've had your own career and you've taken care of your house, you have a dog that you have, like you have all these things, you've built a life.
You got
for
everything
yourself.
but the man, basically.
Well, so right, but that means you've been primarily living in your masculine energy, and you're supposed to immediately just shoop and let go all of the things. Like you're juggling all these things, and you're supposed to just go, okay, here, and just toss them off to this guy who, because he shows a few masculine traits, and you're supposed to trust that when like men are proving, well, not just men, but people are proving to not be very trustworthy when it comes to the beginning of relationships.
Sure.
So you're not going to be in your feminine because you're still juggling all the things you have to juggle, and he's earning his respect with you. He's showing up, and little by little you're able to give those things over as he continues to show up consistently. So you can't be in your total feminine if you've already been having to handle everything in a masculine way, which is what society has kind of made happen for us, right? Because people are getting married later, and women are supposed to be hustlers just like men are.
I completely agree. Okay.
I'm good at this.
You are good at this. So we're talking about women that have to hustle, and men are obviously also having to hustle. When we were talking about can feminism and chivalry coexist, it is so important that we acknowledge that having to be masculine in your day-to-day life, because the world is tough. The world's hard. It's not going to cater to your feelings. It doesn't care how you hope things are going to work out. So you do have to have a little bit of an edge to yourself if you're going to survive, at least on your own and single. But do you remember I said that changes completely once you start entering the courting phase? Immediately femininity or feminism is gone. I want him to initiate. I want him to plan. I want him to pay. I want him to lead.
In the unhealthy way. Like you were saying it in the unhealthy way, where I want him to pay for this and that and that. That's also wrong. He shouldn't be having to pay for your babysitter on a first date.
I'm not talking about the babysitter, but women want him to pay for the first date. They want him to plan it. They want him to initiate. They want him to approach. They want him to do all the masculine things. So that would mean that she wants him to be that man. So then if she wants that, she has to do the work to be able to settle back into her feminine. She has to. She can't require masculine energy and then not provide the opposite of that. And it doesn't seem to be much of a difficult thing for them to do when they immediately make requirements like paying for the first date or what all the things, but all those things.
Just like each masculine masculine thing that shows up is like a femininity earned. It's like, I don't mean that to sound as transactional as it's going to sound.
Fine. I get it.
It's just my explanation. It's like,
femininity exists because of masculine security. Femininity can't just just raw exist in the world, it will get killed.
Right. So that's the point, is that women have had to handle this stuff well into their 30s. So they're in that.
Okay.
And then in the courting phase, right? Like the first few dates, they're still kind of like figuring out like how much are you showing up, this and that. So by date 3 is when accountability hits, right? Is what we talked about.
Sure.
And so, by date 3, he's like, hey, I know, we've talked a bunch. I know what you like. So I've planned this date.
Okay.
And she's like, okay, I can let that go. So she's not as white knuckled about that. So she's getting to enjoy the date a little bit more. So he's seen a little bit more of that feminine side. So that's what I mean by masculinity earns feminism in that. Or sorry, wait.
Earns femininity.
Femininity. Okay. That's what I mean.
I do agree.
By masculinity earns femininity.
I do agree with that, but I don't think that a man should be expected to put a woman into her feminine. I think she should be there.
But I don't think that
she's going to want to date.
But I don't think that a woman should be in her feminine to get a man to be in his masculine. I think
no.
needs to.
That's not what we're saying.
But that's kind of.
I said if we said that, we would laugh that person out of the room. We never say she needs to be in her feminine, put him in his masculine.
Well, you said that she needs to be in her feminine already for him to be in his masculine.
No.
Roll the tape.
No. Well, if I did say that, my apologies. That if she expects all of that, she already needs to be in her feminine.
That's what you're saying. Yes, that's exactly what I.
But
that she's all. If she expects all that.
Not she needs to be there first. For that, if she expects that, this needs to be taken care of on her end. She needs to be doing her part, not so he will, but as he is.
Okay, so
yes,
you're
not like
okay, because you're like she already when you use the word
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, not her femininity will put him there, but if she requires the masculine in the dating dynamic, she needs to be bringing femininity. She needs to be there.
That's what you mean. Okay.
She needs to be able to drop into it.
I'm hearing you say already, which sounds like
I got you. Yeah, no, she needs to be able to be capable when the courting process happens. Just like I said, femininity and feminism and chivalry can't coexist in relationships. I don't believe that they actually can. I don't think they can.
Right.
I think that feminism can exist out in society and the workplace, but when it comes to courting, women don't want that shit. They don't really want. They want a man to put them into their feminine. That's what they want.
I would agree with you at like a 70 to 80% ratio, because I do still think that there's a lot of other relationships outside of that. Like if we're going to speak in generalities, like that makes sense.
And that is what we're doing. We're speaking in generalities.
I just want to like make clear.
Yeah, it's not everybody. But
because there was
most people.
There was a call out from somebody, and I just want to make sure that
always going to have call outs.
People understood that you aren't speaking 100%. You're not speaking in a full generality. Right, exactly.
Yeah,
there's like a 20 to 30%
the majority,
ratio,
even if that's 51%. That's the majority.
Yeah, okay, you're right, exactly.
The majority of women want a man to lead. The majority of them do. They want to be able to relax in his presence. And
don't speak for all women.
I'm speaking for 51%. That's who I'm speaking. 51%. That's as far as I'm willing to go.
I'm just giving you some pushback because it's fun.
But so the feminism and the chivalry, I don't think can coexist.
Right.
So women need to be able to tap into their femininity when courting occurs. Being your masculine when you're out here being a boss babe. That's totally fine. You're paying your bills. Be the masculine version that is required to survive. But when you want a man to come into your life, he needs to have a space he can come into. He doesn't want to date another man.
But again, what you're saying is still kind of goes back to she needs to already be in her feminine. And it's like, no, that's earned. Because he shows up, he goes, hey,
well, she needs to be able to, is what
okay.
I'm saying. She needs to be able to have that in her repertoire. She doesn't need to not be able to do it. Because there's a lot of women who can't. Who just simply cannot get into their feminine because they're so masculine.
There's one area that I really, really struggle letting go.
What is it?
It's in child rearing. Because I've worked in it, because it's an area that I'm skilled and I'm educated in.
Go on.
That's really close. Because it's an area that I'm skilled and I'm educated in. I think this and I think that this can be an example across the board, right? Like,
why do I think you're about to upset some people?
If you are excellent in technology, and you are a female, and that is like you're like a web developer, something like that. And you're like, I'm going to program the whole house on Alexa, blah, 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 blah. And that's like the man's like, but like that's my job to handle the house security. And she's like, yeah, but this is what I'm good at. Like
Gender
this is my
roles.
job.
Got it.
Right. So when your expertise supersedes the gender role, I think that's when there's a little bit of like a where does this compromise kind of come in. And
Sure.
I think that that's the hard part for people to navigate in if it appears in the early stages, because it immediately feels like a masculine pushback from a feminine woman if she is in her expertise
It
and
can.
and that's the
Yes.
struggle that I have when it comes with child rearing, is because I will go into like I know these things and this is how I know that I want to raise kids and this is what I know is best.
I think that makes you more feminine, to be completely honest. Child rearing, nurturing, that is
But
in
it's
the feminine wheelhouse. Like that makes you even more attractive to men.
except that I don't think it does
Why not?
but it made me start thinking, okay, so there has to be caveats and there has to be compromises in some of these gender roles when it comes to expertise.
Sure.
But that is going to put me in my masculine if I'm dealing with a man who's not going to step up in leadership as a dad. Like if he's not saying, hey, child, like you do not talk to your mother that way. We're going to
Right.
have a conversation.
Yeah.
If he's not doing that, I'm not going to respect his
Especially if you're
leadership as
stepping
a
into
father.
especially if you're stepping into a stepmom situation,
Right.
that's doubly hard. But if it was your child, you were able to vet the man first, have a child with him, like that would probably be a completely
Maybe.
different. I mean, well, surely
Yeah.
you're gonna choose to have a child with somebody who you trust to have structure, to have
Yeah.
boundaries, to be able to implement that in a good way.
Yeah.
So, no, I completely understand what you're saying in terms of like that one area that you feel that you're masculine, because he's probably not stepping up in the masculine way that you desire him to. So it is maybe drawing out a little bit more, a little bit more of that from you. So I totally
So
understand
which
that.
is where that logic, so if we're going back to like the topic that we're talking about, is
Mm-hmm.
like where the logic brain hits, where I'm starting to do evaluations. I'm like,
Sure.
this lines, you know, but then if there's something like that that occurs where there's like a,
Sure.
you know, then you kind of allow that to become big when you like the guy that I previously dated and moved across states for, he was not showing up in a masculine way. I was kind
Right.
of handling a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, could I be happy with this man? Like, he's so kind and he's so good to me, and I feel safe in his love.
Mm-hmm.
And I could probably fall in love with him because he's so good to me.
Sure.
But he wasn't more in a feminine energy, and it forced me into a masculine. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I,
That's when you know you got to back out.
But
You
yeah.
got to give it
And
up. But let me say this real quick. I think that especially the people who are watching, they don't want to have to make the choice. They're probably saying, "Why can't I just have both? Why do I have to choose between having chemistry and sparks and finding somebody who makes sense logically on paper? Why do I
should be
have to?"
both.
I absolutely agree. I do think it should be both, and I don't think that you should intentionally try to rob yourself of one of the most amazing experiences as a human, which is the honeymoon phase. That chemical cocktail that you experience during that time is almost not ever replicated because you get so used to having that person in your life. So those first several months, I want and envy people who are in that experience. It is so beautiful. And I think, that's that bonding experience. That's why we fight for love. That's often our definition. That's when the most beautiful poetry is written. That's when the most beautiful songs are written. But that's also when we're our most vulnerable.
And stupid. So then you would say, like, your wrap up would be that logic or security should not supersede passion, that you should always begin with passion. That would be your...
I want you to find the magical blend for you in the stage of healing that you are in. If you are just going for the stats, making sure that they're a safe bet, that's probably a decision being made out of fear of being hurt, or maybe you feel like you're running out of time and you just need someone that's going to fill that space and make you check off your life goal boxes. I don't think that is something that you should just be actively seeking. I do want you to be looking for both. I do want you to have that fun experience. I do want you to be thinking about them every day, every night. I do want you waking up hoping that you have that good morning text. I want you to have that romance. I want you to have that fun moment. I do want you to have the chemistry and the sparks, but understand, sparks are just sparks. You should be seeking a fireplace, something that's sustainable, something that's going to keep you warm, something that is going to be there day after day after day.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, everybody, I just want to thank you all so much for joining us on Dating Today, a conversation about modern dating issues. You just heard a conversation with Megan and myself talking about should you choose between chemistry and sparks and passion over logical and what was that? What was it?
Security.
Sorry, over
versus
security and
passion.
logic. Yes. So everybody, if you guys have any questions, any comments about today's episode, leave it in the comment section below. Megan, thank you so much for this conversation. This was a good one.
Yeah. Thank you, Brock.
Of course. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.
Add it up.